Stankie.
What's up everybody, another beautiful day in Azeroth, and here's a quick guide to Mythic Plus Necrotic Week, going over important trash abilities and boss mechanics. Throughout the dungeon you'll find shields, spears, and orbs that you can pick up and interact with. Each gives you an extra action button to trigger the item. The shield reduces damage taken to everyone in its area by 50% for 6 seconds. The spear deals a massive amount of damage to targets in its path and applies a stacking dot, as well as increases damage taken, and the orb pulses out damage in a 10-yard area and interrupts target's hit. Now anyone can pick these up, so make sure to not forget them. Notable trash before the first boss: light bags explode and applies a deceased dot to players on death, and the corpse harvester's drain fluid needs to be instantly interrupted or stopped, deals damage and incapacitates the target. Now if possible you want to soothe the Stitched Vanguard Seething Rage, and you want to always avoid pulling the gatekeepers. First boss, we have Blightbone, tank boss near the wall where he stands, or pull him back a bit. Targets and fixates on a random player while casting Heaving Wretch, which deals a ton of damage and spawns 3 maggots. Stay grouped in front of boss and targeted player moves away and aims it away from group. Now the maggots fixates on players, and if they reach their target they'll stack up Blood Gorge and eventually explode, applying a nasty dot to the entire group. So you want to make sure to stun, knock, etc. to keep him away and nuke him down. When they die, they spawn a huge puddle on the ground, which silences or pacifies you if you stand in it. You can't attack, so make sure to always move boss and group after puddles spawn, and you can aim future wretches towards the old puddles to save space. Notable trash before the second boss: tanks, beware of Bone Carver's Boneflay, deals damage and applies a bleed. Make sure to interrupt sorcerers. Necrotic Bolt deals damage and applies a healing absorb. Their Shadow Well also spawns puddles. Puddles are bad. Necromancer, when it dies, all their adds and minions despawn, so even though winning that overall damage is extremely important, it is better to single target focus down Necromancers and control their adds. You can use crowd control to stop Animate Dead from spawning more adds, and you want to make sure to interrupt their Necrotic Bolt. Players targeted by Grim Fate needs to move away. Beware of these skeletal marauders' gruesome cleave. It's a frontal that melee loves. And you always want to interrupt their rasping scream AoE fear. When they pop Bone Shatter Shield, you want to focus them down, because when you break the shield it deals a ton of damage. You want to make sure to interrupt the Bone Menders' Bone Mend, and you can delay their final bargain with stops and incaps. There are 2 mini bosses before the second boss that aren't mandatory to do, but some routes call for them. One of them is tricky to skip if you don't have Invis or Shroud. First one is Narzuda. Should interrupt their Necrotic Bolts to make your tank happy. Move away if you're targeted by Grim Fate. Possible you want to purge the Dark Shroud Shield. Now the skeletal monstrosity: tanks, beware of their shatter. During Reaping Winds, make sure to run out from the AoE and avoid all the swirlies. They'll shoot a spike up your bum. Now for the second boss, we have Amarth. He'll continuously spam Necrotic Bolts, so make sure to interrupt as many as possible. Land of the Dead spawns 5 minions with various abilities. You need to defeat all adds before final harvest. Each minion currently alive explodes, dealing lethal damage to the party, and if they're dead they instead deal damage only around their corpse. Now healers, beware. After every final harvest the group takes heavy damage over 30 seconds, increased by the number of dead minions or players. Now when the adds are alive, focus on grouping them up, interrupt the mages, and move boss over to the crossbow skelly. Then you just cleave him down on boss. Now the boss also twirls around spewing a necrotic breath. Don't take it to the face. Notable trash before the third boss: wanna keep an eye for Corpse Collector's Gore Splatter. It's an extremely important cast to interrupt, deals a ton of damage and applies a deceased dot to everyone. Now tanks, beware of the Stitchworks stacking damage taken increase from Tenderize, and a big tank buster from Mutilate. You can kite them if needed to drop the debuff, and use defensives on high stacks. Now if you're targeted by Fleshcrafter's Throw Cleaver, aim it into another mob so they get it instead of you. Multiple enemies have this cast and you deal with it the same way. Want to make sure to interrupt their repair flesh or stop the channel so they don't heal. And you want to watch out for Loyal Creations AoE Spine Crush. Soothe them if possible if they get Vengeful Rage. Beware of Separation Assistance Morbid Fixation. Kite, if you're fixated, don't stand in Rot Spew's Disease Cloud and pop a defensive if they spew disease on you. Now for the third boss, we have Stitchflesh. Start of the fight, you face one of his creations and new creations will spawn throughout the fight. Players targeted by its meat hook ability needs to aim the arrow towards Stitchflesh and hook him down. Do make sure to move away yourself or you'll get hooked instead, as it can hook anything, be it a boss, mob, or a player. The Abomination slaps tanks with Mutilate and deals ever increasing damage to the group with Festering Rot. Now as soon as you've hooked down the boss, pop DPS cooldowns and focus down boss and cleave the ad, but avoid killing it. Boss will fixate on random players and smack them. This can be interrupted by using Meat Hook once again, so targeted players make sure to hit boss with it. Now if you keep this ad alive all the way up until boss jumps away, you can use the third Meat Hook to instantly get boss down again. If it dies before that, you will get new creations, so you use their Meat Hooks instead. So pretty much every odd hook is used to get the boss down and every even hook to interrupt boss fixate. Now tanks, make sure to pop defensive if you have multiple creations up, and healers, beware if they have high Festering Rot stacks, and always aim to finish off a creation when a new one spawns. Notable trash before the last boss. There is none. So, Nalthor the Rhyme Binder targets random players with frozen binds, rooting them and giving them a 16-yard circle around them. When dispelled or the root is removed, any player within that circle gets rooted. So range, try and position yourself so you can safely be instantly dispelled in melee, and tank, run away from rooted targets if they're in melee. Now when boss cast Comet Storm, melee and tank group up and move together to make it easier. You drop swirls constantly underneath you, so stutter step. Range, do range things. Boss gains Icebound Aegis, the group takes a ton of damage, so the faster you're able to break it, the better. Now periodically boss will exile one DPS where they need to run through a small gauntlet, dodge swirls, and defeat a mob. This mob applies a stack of Frigid Cold, and when it expires you drop a pool, which size is determined by the amount of frigid stacks you have. So you gotta go fast. And that's about it for the Necrotic Wake. Hope it helps you all in Season 1. Let me know in the comments what you think, or if you have any questions at all about the dungeon. Now if you want to help support my channel, check out my Patreon, Twitch, or YouTube membership, where you can gain access to the Stankie Discord, shoutouts, and videos, among other things. Don't forget the usual stuff, like, comment, subscribe, slap that notification bell. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.